Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to Friday's edition of Take Five. We're in the series that we've entitled School of the Spirit. The message this week has simply been called Speaking in Other Tongues. And we've been looking at what the Bible tells us about how and why we should use this great gift from God, which we've learned is the initial physical evidence that someone has been baptized in the Spirit. And so that's pretty important that we understand that, because what happens is it ends up not just being a physical evidence that something has happened. It ends up being a very beneficial and useful tool that God has given us that I think believers should make use of often. And in fact, the last 2 points we're going to talk about today really give reference to this idea that we should make use of this gift that God has given us real often. So let's just jump straight to those. Any of the others that we've covered this week, you'll just have to go back and pick those up if you want to. The notes are on the church app from the message. I don't think I had them up last Sunday, but I did by Sunday night. Something happened Sunday morning, I didn't get them up. Anyway, they're there, so you can go back and look at those as well. So let's get these last 2 points for today as we get ready to go into the weekend. Number 6. Every believer should make frequent use of tongues in their prayer time. Now, I believe that, not just because I've been in, Pentecostal churches all of my life. I believe that because it's biblical. I believe that because I've practiced it. I believe that because it's something that I do, and I feel like it's essential. I feel like everything that I have talked to you about this week and the weeks prior to this, and even in the weeks to come, I feel like everything is something that all believers should participate in and take part of. This one especially, every believer should make frequent use of their prayer of tongues in their prayer time. Now, Paul is talking to the church at Corinth, where we're going to read from, and they were known for their spiritual overzealousness. And one thing you'll find out, Paul didn't rebuke them for doing what they were doing. He rebuked them for how they were doing it. Now, there were some things that were going on in the Corinthian church, just like every other church, that needed to be rebuked, that needed to be stopped. But when it pertains to the spiritual gifts and speaking in tongues in particular, Paul didn't rebuke them for doing it. It was just in the manner that they were doing. He wrote to them, and in fact, he intended to visit them very soon in order to bring their zeal under an intelligent biblical control. Speaking in tongues was not something that they did not practice. This church did. They actually practiced it a little too much, and they were participating in this with a disorderly fashion. Now, Paul proved that believers should make frequent use of tongues because as much as the Corinthians spoke in tongues and as out of order as they were, Paul still said in 1 Corinthians 14:18, I thank God that I speak with tongues more than all of you. Now think about that. He's telling them, look, guys, you're out of order. You're doing it too much. You're doing it at the wrong time. You're doing it at times when you should not be doing it. But he still tells them that this is something they should practice frequently, just in the right setting. He said, because as much as you're doing this, I still speak in tongues more than all of you. But the next verse is when it kind of brought balance to it. He said, yet in the church, I'd rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that I may teach others also, than 10,000 words in a tongue. So he's not saying that tongues should be limited completely. He's not saying that at all. He's actually saying that believers should pray in tongues often. I mean, he verifies that. I pray in tongues more than all of you is what he said. But in the corporate worship setting, it should be limited to certain times and certain moments so the church can grow in the truths of God's word. Anything else leads to disorder and confusion and dysfunction. So Paul is not saying, he never said that they should not do it at all. He said you just need to bring it into order, do it at the right time, and make sure there's no confusion in it. And he reminds them, listen, you guys are doing, the whole church service, you would have to imagine, they would come in And Paul mentions this at one time in this particular passage. He said, if people come in your church, unbelievers or outsiders or people that are visiting your church, and they come in and y'all are doing all this, and everybody's just walking around just speaking in tongues constantly, and that's all you can hear is this constant uproar of tongues that's going on in the church, and there's never anything intelligible where people can be taught and they can learn. He said, they're going to look at you and think you're crazy. And I think maybe that's why people steer clear of it, because of disorder and misuse. I think that may be why some folks say, I'm just not going to do that. That's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, friend. It's really not. Let's face fact. You and I both know that we all do crazy stuff that's way more embarrassing than speaking in tongues. Especially if you're speaking in tongues intelligently and in order and in a biblical manner and sense. So we got to admit that. And so that's what Paul was saying. He said there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing bad about it. It's not of the devil. And I'm not telling you to quit like some Reformed theologians have done. I'm not telling you to quit. What I'm telling you to do is do it often, but do it in order. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, all this you guys are doing, I still speak in tongues more than all of you, but I do it in order. So Paul spends a lot of time in his personal prayer life praying in tongues. It's permissible, it's needful, it's necessary in the church setting as well, but it must be done at the right time and in the right order to limit confusion. Last point for today. Praying in tongues is something that should be encouraged and not restricted. Paul said, if anyone thinks himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things which I write to you are the commandments of the Lord. But if anyone is ignorant, let him be ignorant. Now, Albert Barnes had something to say. I want to read this real quick. He said, this is his translation of Paul's words. He says, if anyone affects to be ignorant of my authority or my apostleship, or whether I have the right to command, if he affects to doubt whether I am inspired by God, or whether what I utter is in accordance to the will of God, at his own peril, let him remain so and abide the consequences. I shall not take any further trouble to debate with him. I've stated my authority. I've delivered the commands of God. And now if he disregards them and still doubts whether all this is said by divine authority, let him abide the consequences of rejecting the law of God. I have given full proof of my divine commission. I have nothing more to say on that head. And now if he chooses to remain in ignorance, the fault is his own and he must answer for it to God. Wow, that's pretty powerful. Paul said, I'm just not even going to argue with you. I'm not going to debate this. I've given you the truth. And if you want to take the truth and ignore it, he said, your own. Verse 39, therefore, brethren, desire earnestly to prophesy and do not forbid to speak in tongues, yet let all things be done decently in order. Did you hear what he said? Do not forbid to speak with tongues. Covet to prophesy and do not forbid to speak with tongues. I really don't know how we can read the Bible and do what so many people have done today and disregard this concept of speaking in tongues and say that it is not for today. Paul did not say put it away. He said just bring it in order and make biblical use of this great gift that God has given the church. Hey, I've got to get out of here. It's been good being with you this week. I look forward to worshiping with you this weekend. Now, I'm not going to be doing Take 5 next week. Tim will be doing it. He's going to be preaching on Daniel in the Lion's Den this coming Sunday. That's going to be a great message and great word, I'm sure. Hey, have a great weekend, friend. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Remember this, when you trust the Lord, you can always rest assured that He will never fail you.